you, Tom, for joining us today. We'll just get started on the interview. So first question is, what exactly is your project and how did you get started in it?
I manage a small rural remote waste facility.
Mm-hmm.
I don't use the term landfill hardly at all anymore because most landfills, it's actually a landfill as a component of what we do. I think the one that you're referring to is our plastic recycling program. We're looking at ways because a big share of waste that goes into landfills is plastic. After China shut down, the export of plastics to China, we had to look at alternatives, and it was costing us a lot of money to, even if we did bale it and ship it off, it was costing us a lot of money to get rid of those plastics. I started working with a gentleman by the name of Chris Nelson of DBS Environmental down in Lethbridge, and he had found at that time one outlet that wanted the basically the unusable plastics, the 1s to 7s, that a lot of people are not wanting, the plastics that can be a little bit dirty. And we started grinding plastic on site. And so we are really pushing hard now to get people educated in the importance of sorting their plastic and bringing it into us. There's some limitations as to what can be used of it, but the technology is getting better and better than what used to happen years ago. And they're finding that they need these harder plastics like the HDPEs mixed in order to make a better product. There is a market. It has to be pretty clean. We hand sort all our plastic, so it's relatively clean, so it is labor intensive. We lose money in it, but where we gain is we're not filling up our landfill.
What are your opinions on microplastics?
I mean, there's a place for it. I'm not going to say we need to go completely without plastics. But I think we can go back, back in my day, we used paper bags when I went to the grocery store. Struggle with landfilling anymore, though. Everybody doesn't understand that it's anaerobic, means without air. So what that means is things don't break down in landfills very fast. I don't care if it's paper or anything like that. We have to seal it off, and so that's anaerobic. But when I look at how nasty around the landfills look and that kind of thing, yeah, we can get rid of plastic bags.
And you're talking a lot about classifications. How do you feel about the plastic recycling logos that have like the number inside it? Do you think those are generally helpful to the public?
No, they're not accurate either. They give the impression that all plastics are recyclable. All plastics aren't recyclable.
So when you're changing the plastics, do you see smoke when you're working with it or fume that could affect people's respiratory health?
We have, like when we're grinding the plastic, we have a ventilation system or a vacuum system to collect the dust and whatnot. We also, in the building, we actually put an air exchange system in. No, we've not had any issues. We do provide masks and stuff for the staff. Hearing protection is most important. But no, there's not actually our dust. If you go in there, there's very little dust on any of the equipment or anything like that. We capture it as best we can. And I actually went away. I used to, in my old grinder, I had a blower to blow it into the bags, and that created dust, more dust. This one, I actually put it's actually a grain auger. It's a small one, and doing that, and we're hardly got any dust coming off of it. So sometimes it's a matter of just doing some research and finding out what's being done out there. But
that's awesome. When did you realize that we needed to change the way that we use plastics?
I have friends back home that have been in the garbage business, and I would help them do different things when they're running their truck runs and stuff. And when you see all the plastic going into the landfill, I knew then there was an issue. So, the businesses are kind of moving over that direction. I don't think, to me, that regulation isn't the way to go. Let's just do a little PR and a little education, and I think the businesses will go the right direction.
Okay. So what is the challenge that you see facing forward or moving forward, per se?
The biggest challenge is getting like I said earlier, is getting the federal government and whatnot to put some limits on what certain items could be made out of, instead of, like almost all appliances or all plastic, like computers, VCRs, all that comes from overseas. There's no regulations saying, okay, this is the kind of plastics you can make. They can just make out whatever they want. So the challenge is going to be, how do we regulate that? Other challenges, as I said earlier, is research, finding funding for research. How can we research different ways to use plastic, recycled plastic, and not just recycled plastic, a lot of other products. Trucking costs are atrocious. It's just unreal what we have to pay to get rid of some of this stuff, and that's why a lot of things aren't recycled. Is the trucking costs are ridiculous. Nothing against the trucking industry. They've got to make a dollar, but when you're shipping hundreds of kilometers, thousands of kilometers to get to a processor, that costs a lot of money.
Those are all the questions that I have. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, or anything else that you'd want to?
No, I just appreciate you acknowledging that we are working at ways to try to recycle on plastics, and is what this interview is, but other things. And getting the word out, that recycling is, those of us in the landfill world, is important to us, but it may not look like it when they see all this waste going into the landfills, but we actually are trying hard to divert as much as we can away from the landfills, and it's a lot of work. It's hard work. We're always talking about different ways and different things on how we can reduce the waste and be more efficient at what we do.